Hello, welcome back to YouTube Portfolio, the portfolio run by YouTube. If you want me to buy a stock, remember all you got to do is put a comment down below. If it's the most upvoted comment, that is the stock I will buy. Let's take a look at how we did in the past week since our last video. This is our week chart. We are down 0.72%, which is not that bad, but a loss is a loss. Never super exciting. The stock I ended up buying was AEP. If you don't know what AEP is American Electric Power. American Electric Power is just a power company around my area. They are pretty reliable. That's they just do their thing. They go up and they pay a pretty good dividend. It's a pretty boring stock, other than apparently COVID, which really shouldn't have impacted them all that much. In fact, probably should have helped them because a lot more people at home. Don't know why they went down, but it's a pretty cool stock. It's a stock I like. It's a company I like. Let's take a look at overall how our portfolio is doing. So our portfolio is doing pretty well. It's actually up about $1.40, which is pretty good. The obvious worst one here is work. Slack is not doing very good for us. It's almost down $1. Apple is up a little over $1, pretty much our best one. All these other ones haven't been too interesting. Delta Airlines is pretty cool because I bought it 2 weeks ago, and right when I bought it, it pretty much went straight up. But yeah, that's how our portfolio is doing over the entire tenure of this YouTube channel. Pretty good, pretty all right. 1.4 is it's about 2% or so that we're up over the long haul, which is not that bad, pretty respectable. So today I want to talk about when marijuana will become legal. Obviously, Biden just won the presidency, and a lot of people have started to think that this means, well, we'll have legal weed, but I want to take a look at a thing that I think tells us the story and the history word for word, and it is gay marriage, and how gay marriage slowly got more and more popular until eventually it became legal by the courts, and tell you why I don't think 2020 is the year for legal weed. I don't think that 2021 will be, maybe 2022. So first I want to talk about this graph. This graph is graphed medical marijuana legalization and just straight up legal recreational. As you can see, medical has been around a lot longer. We think of them as kind of like, oh, you do medical, and no, medical's a whole nother game. 40 states have some form of legal medical marijuana, whereas only 15 have some sort of legal recreational, and that's 33% of the population. This is including the ballot measures of 2020. Obviously, this big spike right here is one of the biggest. I think it might be the biggest. If you look over here, it went from 4 to 8. Yeah, there was a 4-state jump back in 2016. There's a 4-state jump here. So this is tied for the biggest jump. It looks pretty good in terms of growing, speeding up as well. Another thing I kind of want to look at is the shape of this graph. There's not a lot of activity. It starts to curve upward, speed up, and then slow down, because obviously there's still some states that will hold out no matter what the thing is, unless there's this federal legalization. So let's take a look at gay marriage to see how this entire thing already played out. So where do I think we are on this plot? If we look at legal recreational marijuana, well, we haven't yet seen a huge spike. For example, there was 31, this went up to 30. Well, I guess it's not a huge spike. 25, there we go, 25 to 31. That's a 6-state spike. That's a ton. And then on top of that, every year it was spiking by multiple amounts. That's 3 states, 6 states. So just boom. I think we're still starting that, as you can see. Like, we're kind of in this phase, right? Like, it's starting to pick up. Maybe in a few years we'll see a bunch. Another thing I want to point out is look at the point in which it becomes legal. Right here is the last year before same-sex marriage becomes legal, and that was with 36 states. So that's 14 left, 36 states. Where are we right now? Well, we're only at 15 states in legal recreational marijuana. So we can find where 16 is. Well, it looks pretty optimistic if you want it to be legal soon. This is why I said maybe 2022 is the year for legal marijuana, because if you follow this exact same trend, well, 16, 36, 50. Now, obviously, it probably won't follow this exact same trend. We can also look at the years. So it really all started in 2012, that's 8 years, and then gay marriage all started way back here in 2003. So we'd be in 2011, which is right here. So legal recreational marijuana is going a little bit faster than same-sex marriage, so there's also another argument to be made that we're 4 years out. Now, I don't particularly think that we are 4 years out, but it's also important to remember that this 2015, this whole area was under a Democratic president. In fact, a Democratic president took over here. So a lot of people would think, oh, well, same-sex marriage is going to be legal. There's a Democratic president, legal. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Even if they support it, which Obama supported it, right? He got elected here, and it didn't get legal until 2015 is when it got legal, which, if you remember, 1 year before the end of his presidency. So if we're looking at it that way, which is another way to look at it, takes a while for president's changes to kind of go into effect. That would put an even rougher picture, looking at about 7-8 years out from now. Now, if we kind of think about that, that would say that our maximum, probably 8 years, our minimum, 1 to 2 years. I think personally, I would expect it to be more like 1 to 2 years out rather than 8 years out. It's also important to see what happens in 2 years with the other election cycle. See if Democrats win seats. If there is a blue wave, well, then we'll probably see some legislation being passed. Now, another thing I think is a possibility, and this is kind of a finance channel, so I always try to harken it back to this, is maybe there will be legislation that kind of allows American companies to work across states and to be traded on stock exchanges as well. That is currently non-existent, so a lot of the ETFs you see have to be medical marijuana, or the companies you see have to be involved in medical marijuana. They can't be involved in recreational marijuana. And while medical marijuana is great and all, it seems to me that there are already huge players in medicine, and it's logical that they would pretty easily just kind of take over that field. It wouldn't be very exciting. It would be a bunch of big drug companies taking over the medical marijuana field, and not really any new players. I think if you want to see new players, you probably want to look at recreational marijuana, see what they do with the legislation that is passed around that as well, because it's very clear from the investment that Constellation Brands, the owner of Corona, made in marijuana, specifically CGC, Canopy Growth Group Corporation, something like that, that they are very, very interested in that field. So it could also be a thing where big companies end up taking over anyway. However, hope you found that interesting. That's just my take. My personal opinion is that we will see legal federal marijuana in 2 years, and that at maximum it won't be longer than 7-8 years. It's kind of a wide range, but that's my take. I don't think we'll see it in 2021 because I don't think Biden will be that into it. And on top of that, there's a sort of voting with the states going on thing here. So gay marriage was legal in 70% of the population, and what's that, 72% of the states. Right now, we have a third of the population, which is, there's a third of the that's a pretty big amount, but that's still only a third of the population. That's still only 30% of the states. So if you're voting with states, well, then this vote looks like it's a while out. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you want me to buy a stock, all you gotta do is put a comment down below. If it's the most upvoted comment, that's the stock I will buy. Check back in next week to see how our portfolio is done and what stock I buy, and learn about some sort of interesting finance related topic.